the June 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Housing Opportunity Commission to order. And I think it's more than appropriate, given what's going on today in our country and all of the people who are in this country who are advocating for behalf of the issues that confront us as a nation. I'd like to take a moment of silence to recognize George Floyd and all the other victims who have been affected by by violence in their lives and in their communities. So if we could take a moment to do that. A moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. I would like now to begin the meeting. The first order of business is an information exchange and the Resident Advisory Board. Do we have anyone present who's going to speak on behalf of the Resident Advisory Board?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes. This is Yvonne Kaufman, Vice President of the Resident Advisory Board, for the record.
Very good.
The board met on Monday, May 18th, virtually with all their members, with the exception of two that were unable to be there, and our staff liaison was present. We received a presentation from the Fatherhood Initiative from Jonathan Cartenia, their director, and which was a very informative presentation, noting that they have reached their goal for participants for this year already, and the basis of their initiative in instilling their 3 pillars of a platform for fatherhood, financial literacy, and adult education work development. And he also informed us how long the program is, and that they also are securing participants from the wait list.
Good.
So we were very glad to hear about that. Moving on into the COVID-19, we've been talking to our residents, especially here. I'm at Town Center, which is a hub, of course, and we have received notice that we do have one person who has been stricken, and we have received precautionary advisory notices so that the children can be outside, but make sure that they have masks. And I believe our resident advisor, our site resident advisor, has been handing out masks to some of the residents as well. Before we went on lockdown back on the 12th of March, she also went door by door to give the residents notifications of what help they could receive from Only Help, which a lot of them are not aware of. And she made another trip around, also letting them know what resources are available to them. She hasn't as yet made a trip to let some of the families know about the rental assistance that just dropped here on the 1st. However, we have found out, one of the members from the Resident Advisory Board that also lives here has found out that there are about a half dozen families that are interested in that, and she has referred them to the website. I recommend that Edgewood take another step in notifying the residents that these resources are available to them. Also making sure that they have notices out to the older adults so that they know what to do, where to go, and get food and other sources of utilities and so forth. And the mode has been, as I have already said, that they would go around and put notices on the door, which is best at this point. We will be looking further at exercising social distancing with the children that are here and enforcing it as much as we possibly can so that we all can remain safe. And our next meeting is on June 15th, which is the third Monday, and hopefully we'll be able to update you on some more of our findings from the residents, and hopefully they will partake of these resources that are available to them. I just received something in from Washington Gas that they have a boatload of money that they can help people with, and through the Salvation Army. And I, with our utilities as high as they are here, I hope that they will take advantage of that. I certainly will be promoting that with the residents that I speak with. Other than that, until next month, thank you for your time.
Ms. Copn, I'd like very much to thank you and the members of the Resident Association for continuing to stay so engaged, because during this period of time that we are confronting with COVID, that is so important that the residents be aware of resources like you've identified, that we stay in touch with them, and that we care about the conditions that they are confronting themselves, whether in their buildings or in their community. So I want to thank you very much for the work that you all are continuing to do.
Why, thank you very much, sir.
The next order of business on our agenda is a report from our Executive Director, Stacy Spann.
Good afternoon, commissioners and team. For the record, my name is Stacy Spann, Executive Director. I rather than actually go through the written form of the Executive Director's report, I want to take a few minutes and talk about the recently launched COVID-19 rental assistance program that HOC is managing on behalf of the county and the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. So I'll give us a quick overview. And essentially, what has happened is that Montgomery County has garnered federal funds in the form of community development block grant funding, somewhere around $1.7 million. And the way that funding is to be dispersed is that qualified applicants can apply for up to $500 per month for a period of up to 3 months, so no more than $1,500. We actually opened our application submission process online and via paper at our 4 locations on June 1st at 10 a.m. We close on June 5th at 2 p.m. And applications are available in Spanish and in English. And there are 4 locations where folks can actually drop off applications that are either downloaded and completed, or pick up applications and then drop them off. And those 4 locations, I'll give the addresses very quickly: 10400 Dietrich Avenue in Kensington, 231 East Deer Park Drive in Gaithersburg, 101 Lake Forest Boulevard in Gaithersburg. That one is actually special. There's an HOC van there taking applications 100% of the time, so 24 hours a day, up to that June 5th at 2 p.m. And then the final application is at 880 Bonifant Street in Silver Spring. So to this point, we have just over 1,400 total applications in. We expect there to be considerable number of submittals, just ahead of that June 5th, 2 p.m. Closing. And so, we encourage all potential customers to apply. There are clear application criteria included in the application packet. And then for landlords who are listening, this is an opportunity perhaps to assist some of your customers, some of your tenants with back due rent who might be having challenges due to lost hours, lost wages. So I really wanted to take a moment to talk about that. I want to add to it just very quickly that on June 10th, applications in the pool are going to be reviewed after a randomized selection process. That way, where everyone has an equal chance. Only one application is allowed per household. And then between June 17th and 23rd, selected applicants are going to be notified of awards with first checks hitting mailboxes at landlords via USPS on July 1st. So persons having questions can contact us at 240-627-9606 or 240-627-9680 or via email cdbg_rap@hocmc.org, cdbg_rap@hocmc.org. And all of this information is available on our website. And again, as I said, in those physical locations. So commissioners, with that, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer or try to answer them.
I would just acknowledge, if I could, Director Stacy Spann, that I know that there was a significant amount of work that you all had to do in partnership with the county in order to set up this program for the residents who will benefit from it. And I just want to thank you and the staff for the work that you did in an expedient way to get this project launched. And it will certainly benefit a number of families who require this kind of assistance. And I'm hoping that there may be some other additional things that can be done as this goes forward, but the initial $500 per month for 3 months is certainly a very important level of resources for many of the families who will be fortunate enough to get this support. So I want to thank you and the staff for the work that you all have done and the partnership you've had with the county.
And the work that the staff is going to be undertaking in this trying time as it is. I'm sure it's an extra load.
Yeah. So with that, let me advance the agenda to the commissioners exchange. But before we do that, let me do a roll call to establish who are the commissioners that are here, and then note that we have a quorum. Commissioner Kelleher.
Present.
Commissioner Kroom.
Present.
Commissioner Simon.
Present.
Commissioner Burke.
Bird, yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Nelson. Here. So you do have a quorum present. So thank you all very much for being present. So we now will get into the commissioner exchange portion of the agenda. Is there any commissioner exchange?
Chair Priest, I'll just mention that we have a very long agenda today, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time, but I wanted to note that the report from the executive director in this month's packet was very helpful. It gave a really nice summary of the work the staff has been doing over the past month and how it fits into larger, longer-term work streams that the commission has been undertaking. So I wanted to thank Mr. Spann and the staff for putting that together for us and giving everyone the context of what's going on.
Good. Good. Thank you very much for that information. Is there any other commissioner exchange? If not, we'll proceed with the agenda. Normally in our regular meetings, we'd have a community forum portion of this on the agenda for here, but because of the current state of emergencies and the social distancing requirements related to the coronavirus disease, COVID-19, that portion of the meeting is not being held through live stream. However, we do encourage you to participate, and you can go onto our website for more information about the open meeting requirements and procedures. I will now proceed to ask for action related to the approval of the minutes of May 6, 2020, May 6/20 administrative session, and the May 20th special session.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 So ordered. The next item on the agenda is for consent for the approval to appoint commissioners to the board of directors of various development corporations, which is resolution 20-52. Can I get a motion?
Commissioner Kelleher moves that we approve Resolution 20-52 to appoint commissioners to the Board of Directors of various development corporations.
Commissioner Simon seconds the motion.
Are there any questions? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
So ordered. As you all know from past meetings, I have been calling your individual names after all motions. We've got a long meeting today, and so I'm going to dispense with calling every commissioner's name for every vote, and instead just ask that if there is a dissenting vote for a motion, that that person identify themselves. Otherwise, we will assume that it's a unanimous vote. Is that rule okay with you all?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, fine. According to the agenda, we're supposed to be taking a small recess. The recess has been taken and we are going to proceed. We will now convene the annual meetings for the development corporations. The development corporations are special purpose entities that hold various HOC properties. For each development corporation, the board of directors is comprised of the HOC commissioners, and the officers are the same as the officers of the commission. I now call the meeting of the Alexandria Housing Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
So move.
Your second?
Commissioner
Second.
Kelleher seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval, election of officers, and the adoption of the fiscal 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001AH?
Nelson moves approval.
Commissioner Simon seconds.
Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Alexandria Housing Development Corporation?
Commissioner Simon moves adjournment.
Commissioner
Commissioner.
Kelleher seconds.
Is there, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 This meeting is now adjourned.
Can I ask a question, Asha? If you're on the line, can't he just say, since there's no further business, the meeting's adjourned unless there's an objection?
I think that works. That's fine.
Good.
Okay, Roy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's take one more vote.
I now call the meeting of the Barclay Apartment Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Nelson so moves.
I second. Commissioner Croom.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
No ayes. Next action for the approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution 20-001BC?
Commissioner Byrd, move approval.
Is there a
Commissioner
second?
Kelleher seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 With no further business to come before the corporation, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I was saying, well, you don't have to ask for motion, just say, since there is no further business, you adjourn it.
Okay, this meeting is now adjourned.
Right.
I now call the meeting of the Brookside Glen Apartments Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Simon moves approval.
Commissioner Croom seconds that approval.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets have been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution 20-001BG?
Commissioner Byrd moves approval.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Diamond Square Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Croom makes, so moved.
Is there a
Commissioner
second?
Kelleher seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001DS?
Commissioner Simon recommends approval, moves approval.
Commissioner Byrd seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I will now call the meeting of the Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Simon moves approval.
Commissioner Byrd seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001GC?
Commissioner Byrd moves approval.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I will now call the meeting of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Simon recommends approval, moves approval.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Croom seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001GW?
Commissioner
Byrd.
Simon moves approval.
Commissioner Byrd seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned.
Roy,
Yes.
just to, because we're going through the same thing for every corporation. Actually, the resolution does all those things. The resolution one says the officers of the corp are the same as officers of the commission. The corporation approves the budget. So we don't have to have separate motions to approve the officers and the budget. If we approve the resolution, we've done all of that. Is that right? Asha?
So the way the resolution reads, it says that we held the meeting and elected the officers. So I think we actually have to hold the meeting and elect the officers and then approve the resolution.
Okay. Just advice for next year.
I'll look into rewriting.
Okay.
Okay. So continuing the journey, this is for the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation, which has been called to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Rick Nelson moves.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 CW?
Commissioner Crew make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Simon seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I'll now call the meeting of the Magruder Discovery Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers and commissions as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner
Byrd,
Kelleher moves.
Commissioner Byrd seconds.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 MD?
Commissioner
make a
Byrd moves
motion.
approval.
Who recommended the motion?
Pam.
It was Byrd, Commissioner Byrd.
And second,
I'll second that emotion.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Rick
Kelleher
Nelson,
so moves.
second.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-002 ME?
Commissioner Simon moves approval.
Nelson,
Kelleher seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Montgomery Arms Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Nelson moves approval, moves.
Commissioner Simon seconds. The
Probably
motion.
moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 MA?
I make
Commissioner
that a
Byrd.
motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Byrd.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I am now calling the meeting of the Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Kelleher moves.
Nelson seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The approval of the election of officers and the adoption of fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 OC?
Commissioner Crew approves.
Seconded by Commissioner Simon.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Paddington Square Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Simon moves approval.
Commissioner Crew second.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 PS?
Commissioner Byrd moves. Commissioner Byrd seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Pooks Hill Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission, the officers of the corporation?
So move. Commissioner Crew.
Second, Commissioner Simon.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 PH?
Nelson,
Commissioner Kelleher so moves.
Nelson seconds.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Red 6 Development Corporation to order. Is it to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Simons so moves.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 RAD 6?
Commissioner Croom approves.
Second.
Kelleher seconds.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, the meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scattered Site 1 Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
So moved. Commissioner Simon.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 SS1?
Commissioner Croom makes that a motion.
Commissioner Byrd seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scattered Site 2 Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Kelleher so moves.
Commissioner Simon seconds.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 SS2?
Nelson.
Move, Commissioner Croom.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Slow Hills Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Kelleher moves.
Commissioner Simon seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 SH?
Nelson
Sure.
so moves.
Moved
Commissioner
by-
Simon seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the TPM Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
I make that motion, Commissioner Croom.
Commissioner Kelleher
Commissioner-
seconds.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 TPM?
So moved, Commissioner Byrd.
Second, Commissioner
Simon.
Croom. Commissioner Simon, okay.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the VPC 1 Corporation to order. A motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation.
Nelson so moves.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of election of officers and the adoption of the year 21 operating and capital budgets as submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 VPC1?
So moved, Commissioner Simon.
Second, Commissioner Crew.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the VPC 2 Corporation, that's the VPC 2 Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Kelleher so moves.
Second, Commissioner Simon.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of the fiscal year 21 operating and capital budgets has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 VPC2?
So move, Commissioner Crew.
Second, Commissioner Simon.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Wheaton Metro Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
Commissioner Kelleher so moves.
Commissioner
Second.
Simon seconds.
Probably moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Approval of the election of officers and the adoption of fiscal year 21 operating and capital budget has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 WM?
So moved, Commissioner Simon.
Second, Nelson.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is now adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Damascus Garden Development Corporation to order. Is there a motion to elect the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation?
So
So
move.
moved.
Commissioner Kelleher.
Seconded, Commissioner Byrd.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Approval of the election of officers and the affirmation of the actions taken in resolution for resolution 19, number 18-001 DG has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve resolution 20-001 DG?
So
Commissioner
moved,
Kelleher.
Commissioner
Commissioner Kelleher
Byrd.
seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Can I just ask a question? If this corporation was dissolved, how come we're still electing
Yes.
officers?
Right, so the resolution 18001 DG was to dissolve the corporation, but we actually need documentation of the officers to file the articles of dissolution. So that's what this resolution is for. So once we get this, we can go through and actually file those articles.
I see.
Commissioner Priest, I would just like to extend my appreciation for the tremendous amount of work in preparing all of these budgets and minutes and the preparation of the briefing materials prior to this meeting. It has to have been absolutely staggering work. And my thanks, and I'm sure that of my colleagues, to all for doing this. And I'm glad your voice held out.
Yes, and I'd like to do one final thing, and that is to call the this meeting for Damascus Garden Development Corporation is adjourned. So
Sorry.
we've approved and taken action on 21 development corporation. I mean, this is a signal to the fact that we are, in fact, engaged in a lot of work at the HOC. So while it's lengthy and long, it certainly is appreciated that we are this involved in the work of providing affordable housing in the county of Montgomery. Maryland. Thank you.
All the committee work and review and development of these budgets and so forth, I think it's very hard to imagine the amount of time that both staff and commissioners develop and how seriously we take this work.
Yes, and I think we have to acknowledge the fact of the level of work that was done for each of the development corporations, providing information about the status of each project. So thank you all very much for that. And we will now reconvene HOC's regular monthly meeting. The regular monthly meeting starts out with administrative and special sessions ratifications. First one is the ratification of action taken in special session on May 20th, 2020.
Nelson moves approval.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 20-39 ARA. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Ordered. The next item is the ratification of actions taken in special session on May 2020. This is resolution 20-40 ARA.
I recommend approval of the financing plan, feasibility, and public purpose for Biopark, and authorize the ability to issue loans to Biopark apartments for acquisition and construction financing, and to authorize a commitment of up to 25.8 million in permanent financing and authorization for the borrower to accept loans in accordance with the finance plan.
Second,
Second,
Nelson.
probably moved and seconded. Are there any questions? All those in favor of approving resolution 20-40 ARA, say aye.
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 Ordered. We will now go into the committee reports and recommendations portion of the agenda. The first committee report comes from Budget, Finance, and the Audit Committee, chaired by Commissioner Nelson.
Well, Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee has been very busy the last month or two. In one, preparing all those budgets that we just approving, I should suggest, discussing with the staff and submitting for approval all of the budgets that were just approved by the boards of the development corporations. Now we've got a few things related to the ongoing budget, and then we'll culminate that with approval for the FY21 budget. And I assume the acceptance of third quarter 20 budget to actual is going to be done by Terri, or are you, Cornelia, going to introduce Terri?
Actually, good afternoon, commissioners. And for the record, my name is Cornelia Kent. I'm the CFO at HOC. And actually, Tommy will
Cornelia?
be.
You're not talking into the mic.
A little louder.
Sorry. I was trying. Sorry about that. Tommy will be presenting the acceptance of the third quarter FY20 budget to actual statements.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's all right. And with that, I'll go ahead and Tommy? Tommy, are you there?
Tommy, you
I
need to
apologize.
unmute.
I was muted. I'm here. Thank you, Cornelia. Good afternoon, commissioners. The agency ended the quarter with a net cash surplus of $3.1 million that resulted in a negative third quarter budget to actual variance of approximately $457,000. While we had savings in the general fund related to administrative expenses and maintenance contracts, the recognizable cash flow to the agency did not meet budget due to shortfalls in some of the unrestricted properties. The public housing program ended the quarter with a surplus due to the delay in the rental assistant demonstration conversion, RAD conversion of Elizabeth House. The surplus will be restricted to the fund. The voucher program ended the quarter with an administrative surplus as a result of fees received for the reconciliation of increased utilizations in calendar year 18 received in fiscal year 20, coupled with savings in administrative expenses. This surplus will be restricted to the program. If you have any questions, I will be happy to address them at this time.
Are there any questions for the members of the commission?
And
Is there a
I
motion?
if I can find it, I would move approval of resolution 20-41, acceptance of third quarter FY20 budget to actual.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 20-41. Any questions? Those in favor of it, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
So ordered. The next item of business is
Third quarter budget amendment.
Thank you. And again, Terri will be presenting this item.
Thank you, Cornelia. The third quarter FY20 budget amendment results in a surplus of approximately $465,000 in the agency budget. There are two components of the amendment. The first is to roll forward the monies that were restricted in FY19 for the capital rollover for IT and the Alexander House Development Corporation. The financing, permanent financing on the property was delayed, resulting in savings in debt service in FY20. Staff is proposing to amend the budget to recognize this saving set by the lower occupancy due to the lease up of the property. The net effect of that is the surplus of the $465,000, which staff recommends be restricted to the general fund operating reserve for future operational needs. The FY20 adopted budget included a $1.15 million contribution. The additional funds will bring that to $1.62 million approximately. And I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Are there any questions?
I move approval of resolution number 20-42, the approval of FY20 third quarter budget amendment.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
It's been properly moved and second to approve resolution number 20-42. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Approved. The next item?
Thank you.
Next item is the authorization to accept $1 million from the Metropolitan Development Corporation operating account, again to the general fund operating reserve, and Fowler will take us through that as well.
Thank you, Cornelia. The FY21 budget that is coming before you for adoption this evening projected a shortfall due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the agency. Staff has looked at the excess cash at the Metropolitan Development Corporation that is available after all Development Corporation fees to HOC and payments under the county air rights were paid for prior years, and is recommending that $1 million of this cash be given to the agency and restricted to the general fund operating reserve. This would still leave a cash balance in excess of 2.5 times the property's monthly disbursements, which is above the minimum threshold of 1.5 times that is established as a minimum. And I'd be happy to address any questions you may have concerning the recommendation.
Terri, I'm sorry, I do have a question which I probably should know the answer to. Do we have to have a meeting in the Metropolitan Development Corporation to also approve this?
We do, and it is scheduled later on the agenda.
I was trying to get back to the agenda and I didn't.
Yes, it is, I believe, one of the last items on the agenda for today.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kelleher moves that we accept resolution 20-43.
Second?
I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20-43.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. We will now go to the next order of business. This is Resolution 20-44.
And the next item is the authorization to write off the uncollectible tenant account receivable balance from January through March of 2020. And Eugenia Pascal, our controller, will walk us through that.
Yeah, and just before Eugenia jumps in, commissioners, I want you to just recall that we are doing a quarterly write down so that where it's causing us to do a number of things. And I think the first thing is everyone in the agency, including commissioners, are paying much closer attention to any trends that we're seeing as a consequence of these write-offs, but they're also forcing a level of additional discipline, imposing it on staff so that we are mindful of it. And it doesn't, just because we write it off doesn't mean we don't work to collect it into the future. It's just that it's quite a bit, and we want to be fiscally responsible, but also fiscally accurate in our reporting. And so it stands to reason that our best practice is a quarterly write down. So with that, Eugenia, jump in.
But may I ask a question?
Certainly.
Putting that amount into the context of how many tenant accounts we have, would seem to me that we are faring reasonably well in this COVID period so far.
Oh, so this, let me just say that this understates the COVID period because it would only capture roughly 17 days of March.
Okay.
And
This
also,
is, but,
Stacey,
oh, go ahead, jump in.
I was just going to point out that these are former tenants as well. These are not tenants who are currently in our unit.
Can't hear you that well, Cornelia.
Sorry,
No
problem.
at all.
But it's the, these are write-offs are for tenants who are no longer in our units. So these would not be COVID related.
Correct.
If I can also say though, and this is probably a good point to raise this, the Budget, Finance and Audit Committee has been working closely with the staff and talking about the whole issue of rent collections, particularly during this difficult time. And we are monitoring it very, very closely to determine the extent of delinquencies, the issues that need to be and how they might be addressed. And this was a subject of discussion at our most recent meeting. So you can be assured that we will be discussing this with the staff and getting a report frequently.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's absolutely right. We're stepping up our attention to it, particularly given what we expect to be a tumultuous next set of months. And I say next set because I don't have a crystal ball. But the trending is such that we believe that it's going to be a difficult rest of summer. So first part of our fiscal year and into the fall of our fiscal year at a minimum.
It's quite apparent that this is an item of great interest to the commissioners since we are talking about it before we even heard the staff report, but continue to go on.
But I think for the record and those listening in, it's important to state how many tenant households we are landlord to or provide financing for.
Yes.
Financing assistance.
No, that's correct. So this does not, while it's we're talking about somewhere around $107,000. It is relatively small amount as compared to the number of tenants we have, the overall income from those tenants, and the number of units under control. So, it certainly, and this is part and parcel cost of being a large, relatively large affordable houser. Nonetheless, we can't help but wonder and work through how we might do better in this regard. And if that means keeping tenants housed and working with them, then that's part of it. But it also is about our level of diligence and relationship with our customers as they're having challenges and our ability to manage properly these accounts. So
It's also related to our tenant services, our Section 3 program, our fatherhood initiative, where we're trying to help residents increase household income, get additional training, and so forth. And I think that many people view us as a landlord and a financial source of assistance, but they don't understand the whole other part of the agency that is working constantly to improve the resources our tenant families have, so that they become increasingly self-sufficient and financially and can improve their circumstances rather than remain dependent. And I just think that the general public needs to understand and have some appreciation of those efforts.
understood.
Cornelia, this is Commissioner Byrd. Is it possible to show the percentage overall? I think to Commissioner Simon's point, this 107 is a percentage of X. So if we have,
sure. No, well, so we have about $7.5 million of rent charges a month for our properties. So that should help put it into some perspective. It's a very small number. It's a very small number.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela.
Presentation, is the presentation still necessary from the staff?
That's up to you.
Let's move it. Let's move this.
We're just giving you a rest, Rick.
Are you all prepared to recommend the approval of Resolution 20-44 for the write-off of uncollectible tenant balances?
Commissioner Kelleher so moves.
Rick Nelson seconds.
It's been probably moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 20-44. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those approved, nay. So ordered. And thank you, staff, for an outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
Well, let's see if we can top the next one. Let's see. Next one is the acceptance of the calendar year 2019 tax credit partnerships and the CCL Multifamily LLC audit. And again, Eugenia will present that for us.
Hey, good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, my name is Eugenia Pascal, controller. The agency has completed the 10th calendar year 2019 tax credit partnership audit and audit of CCL Multifamily LLC for calendar year 2019. A standard and qualified audit opinions has been received for all of them from each of the independent CPA firms who performed the audits. An unqualified opinion is on independent auditor's judgment that the company's financial records and statements are presented fairly and in accordance with GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles in the United States. The audit for the 900 Thayer LP and HOC at the Upton 2 LLC for calendar year 2019 has not been finalized. The staff is currently reviewing the drafts for these audits. Both audits will be presented to the BF&A committee and the full commission once they are completed. The BF&A committee and the staff are recommending acceptance of these 10 tax credit partnership and CCL multifamily audits. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Let me make a couple of comments about this. Number one, I think for those who are unaware, these audits are performed, as I think the report states, by individual outside third-party auditors. part of the overall process that HOC goes through in terms of having its operations audited and commented upon. The significance here is in all of these audits, we have standard unqualified audit opinions on each one of them, which is again a testament to how well the organization runs these developments and operations. So really kudos go to the staff on this. This is also a part of the overall process because we will have an overall agency audit, which comes later on. But issues have been raised about, or questions have been raised about auditing over the course of the past number of months. And I think, pardon me, it's just important to mention this is just part of that process to ensure that, in fact, we are complying with financial standards.
Again, much plaudits to the staff and the committee for the diligence they put into this effort and these multiple communities.
With that, I would move approval of resolution 20-45, acceptance of calendar year 19 tax credit partnership and CCL and multifamily LLC audits. And pardon my voice, but my allergies are getting to me, I guess.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Properly moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20-45. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. It's part of this. It's certainly worth noting that we just spent a great deal of time going through 21 development corporations approval budgets, and now we have 10 additional tax credit properties that we also, in addition, in the portfolio. Very significant.
Thank you. And the next item is the approval to extend the use of the line of credit and the relock to finance certain commission approved actions related to several of our properties. And again, Eugenia will be going ahead and presenting that item.
The Commission has previously authorized the use of the two credit facilities with PNC Bank to prepay the existing debts associated with MHLP 7, Fairfax, and Ambassador Apartments, and to fund the conceptual design and pre-development study of the new headquarters building. The Commission has also authorized advances from the relock to acquire Avondale Apartments and to fund the expenses related to the acquisition of the full ownership of the 10 former tax credit properties under Year 15 LIHTC. As of March 31st, the total outstanding balance from these draws was about 11.2 million, and will mature June 30, 2020. The estimated total annual cost is approximately $215,000, based on 1 month LIBOR as of April 1st, 2020, with an additional cushion of 94 basis points plus the spread. The BFNA committee is recommending, and the staff, extension of the current maturity date through June 30, 2021. Thank you.
I move approval of resolution. Resolution 20-47.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Properly moved and seconded to approve resolution number 20-47. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Yeah.
So ordered. Business.
Skip an item.
No, and I'm sorry, that was me. I wanted to let Eugenia finish, but the next item is the approval to procure the property management services.
Right.
For the Lindley, and Millicent Anglin's going to take us through that.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Millicent Anglin, and I'm an asset manager in the property management division. We issued the Lindley RFP for property management services on March 17, 2020, and received 9 responses. Excluding 2 late responses, the scoring panel reviewed 7 proposals and Bozzuto Management, Caprice, Chambers Theory, Edgewood Vantage, Soldier Pratt, Kettler, and Vista Capital Management Group. The scoring panel was comprised of staff from real estate, finance, compliance, and property management divisions. We interviewed the 3 companies with the highest scores, which were Bozzuto, Soldier Pratt, and Edgewood Vantage. Based on the scoring results, the panel recommends that a 2-year contract be executed with Bozzuto, the current manager. Lindley completed construction in fall 2018 and move-ins began in October 2018. While the property was initially expected to stabilize by mid-2019, the current stabilization date is September 2020. Current and ongoing stabilization challenges include nearby construction activity, which has reduced neighborhood curb appeal, new supply, which has made it difficult to renew leases without offering additional concessions. Social distancing measures this year have slowed traffic year to date. Scoring criteria gave the greatest weight to leasing, management, and compliance experience, followed by fees. 10 points were also available to respondents who were minority and women-owned business. The panel's overall conclusions were that Bozzuto, Folger, Pratt, and Edgewood Vantage all scored highly in the experience and fee categories, and as a result, these 3 companies had the 3 highest overall scores. The 3 companies who scored lowest, Vista Capital, Chambers Theory, and Kettler, either had material information missing from their proposals or had less experience than other firms who responded. As none of the firms were eligible for the minority or women-owned points, the eligible point total was effectively 90. So Bozzuto received 80 of 90 points, or 89% of available points, which was the highest score. Staff's recommendation is to engage Bozzuto to remain as a property management company. At the May 19th meeting, the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request and recommends to the full commission approval of the property management contract with Bozzuto Management. Bozzuto's proposed fee is the same as the current fee of 2.75% of gross receipts, which is already factored into the calendar 20 budget. Also, as the contract is performance-based, the management fee would be lower if revenue declines below budgeted expectations or if the property receives less than an 80 on a REAC inspection. The new contract would start on October 1st, 2020, after the current contract expires. Do you have any questions?
You might note that it may be a little confusing because the resolution number 20-46 did come in a separate cover from the other briefing materials that came to the board. It did come a day after, I think. So do I get a motion to approve resolution 20-46?
Commissioner Kelleher recommends that we approve resolution 20-46.
Rick Nelson, second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve resolution 20-46. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Next order of business.
So, sorry. Yes, next item, last item from the BF&A committee is the adoption of the FY21 budget. We will, this will be setting the financial plan for the next fiscal year. As mentioned a little bit earlier, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have balanced the budget this year from a draw on the general fund operating reserve of about $360 million. The proposed budget is $278.7 million operating and $236.8 million capital. And Terri Fowler, our budget officer, will walk us through a little bit more of the details.
Thank you, Cornelia. Good evening, commissioners. As Cornelia mentioned, I will provide a few highlights of the budget. On page 245, the proposed operating budget for FY21 is $278.7 million, which represents an increase of approximately $440,000 from the recommended budget presented on April 4th of $278.2. The details of the increase are described on pages 245 through 253 and summarized in the charts on pages 257 and 258 However, the majority of the changes are the result of the anticipated impacts of COVID-19 on rent receipts due to potential delay in payments and additional operating costs to ensure the agency can continue to work both efficiently and effectively in providing continued housing and housing services to our customers and clients. The proposed capital budget for FY21 is $236.8 million, and that represents a decrease of approximately $24.2 million from the recommended budget presented on April 1st of $261.1. The details of this increase are shown on page 259, the majority of which is due to changes in the timing and scope of the development budgets included in our capital budget for FY21. On page 264 of your packet, you will see the breakout of the income, with grants making up approximately 44.5% or $123.9 million of the operating income to the agency. The majority of this amount is the HAP subsidy received from HUD of approximately $99.7 million for voucher payments made to landlords in Montgomery County, and that equates to about 35.8% of the total budget. County funding included in the grants accounts for another $11 million, or 3.9% of our operating budget, of which $6.8 million, or 2.5%, is from our main county contract that is used primarily for resident services and to support our properties. Another 35.8% of the operating budget is the revenue generated from our properties of just under $100 million at 99.9. On page 265, you see the expense composition of our budget. 71.8%, or $200.2 million, is the operational budget. And again, HAP makes up the majority of that operational budget of 35.4%, or $98.5 million of the payments that are planned to be made to landlords. The non-operating expenses are comprised of the debt service on our properties, reserve contributions, and various transfers, restrictions, and development corporation fees paid to the agency. On pages 267, you can see the restricted and unrestricted revenue of the agency. Of our total budget of $278.7 million, only about $24.1 million, or 8.7%, is available for discretionary spending. The restrictions on the budget are either from grant and bond requirements, debt service, or reserve contributions, or internal requirements for covering the cost of operating and maintaining our properties. On page 270 of our packet, you see the capital budget details for FY21, and the $236.8 million budget is comprised of $7.65 million in capital improvements of our offices, our infrastructure for IT, and our properties, and $229.19 million is for the capital development projects that are proposed to have activity during the fiscal year 21 budget period. On the charts on page 271 and 272, you see the distribution of the sources and uses. Unlike our operating budget, which does not change much from year to year in the distribution, the capital budget can fluctuate greatly depending on the nature of the deals within the capital development budget. I also want to draw your attention to the charts on page 268 and 269. They list the properties that are included within this budget, and it is a total of 72 properties. You saw individually the development corporations, the 20 budgets there, but there are actually 72 properties represented in the fiscal year budget that is being presented for adoption this evening. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have concerning the budget.
Before you entertain questions, let me again take the opportunity to thank Cornelia and Terri and the team for what I think is an outstanding job. You got to recognize that this budget was really put together remotely because a good bit of the time that is normally spent crunching numbers and having conversations with the commission and with the committee and among themselves just didn't happen in the offices. Most of our committee meetings were by phone, and yet we went through in considerable detail the budget. I should also just acknowledge the fact that over time, I think we've done a very good job of presenting a $279 million budget in a fashion that is understandable and really answers a good deal of questions that people have about the budget of HOC and what we do with them and where they come from. If people are interested in that, they can get all of that information fairly clearly laid out. So really kudos to the staff, and I do appreciate the hard work that was done under some very difficult circumstances. And I'll move approval of resolution 20-48A.
Commissioner Kelleher will second it, and I will add a comment as also being on this committee to what Rick said. There could not be a more difficult situation than what we're in for projecting what's going to happen in the next year, between the health issues, between the economic issues, between the political issues. There on every single front is major uncertainty. And all we know is what our mission is, which is to provide as much affordable housing to the people of the county that need it as we can. And I really have to say that staff has been incredible in figuring out how we can best navigate our way through this, what resources we can count on, what resources we will be watching very carefully to see whether they materialize or not, and then how we can tighten our belts as much as possible ourselves to make sure that we continue meeting mission. And we had given the staff direction that they were to come up with a budget that attempted not to reduce staff, and they have done that with this so far, so that we are not contributing to the economic woes of the county, if at all possible, and at the same time to realistically come up with a balanced budget. And it was amazing the number of times over the past 6 weeks that we sent them back to rework something, and they came back with very good responses. And so kudos to you all. We know this budget may change as we go through the year, and we will certainly be watching with you and supporting efforts that may be needed further in the year. But thank you for what you have done to this point.
Thank you.
One advantage of the COVID-19 situation related to this process we've gone through is it did allow us as committee members to be able to go through this process at home and not to come into the office for all the meetings. Every week we were having a meeting with the budget committee, budget and finance. So I want to thank your staff as well for the work that was done. And if you want to know about the organization and operation of the agency, look at the budget. It's also the policy document for the agency as well as a financial one. So with that, can I get a motion to approve resolution 20-48 been moved by Rick?
Seconded by me.
Probably moved and seconded. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered to approval of resolution 20-48A. Next is 48, resolution 20-48B, which is the approval of the capital budget.
I move approval of resolution 20-48B.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Byrd, I second it.
Been probably moved and second to approve resolution 20-48B, the capital budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Very much to approve. Thanks again to staff for all the great work that was done to get us to this point. Next is the area for Development and Finance Committee. The first item is
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, I am Kareen Brown, Chief Investment and Real Estate Officer. And the first item we have for you is a request to approve a bond authorizing resolution for the issuance of new bonds for the financing of Biopark and refunding bonds for existing bonds in the multifamily portfolio. I will turn it over to Jennifer Arrington to summarize the key points for you, and we'll answer your questions along the way or at the end. So with that, Jennifer, will you please summarize the key points?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Today we're here to request approval of a bond authorizing resolution for the issuance of 3 series of multifamily housing development bonds in the 1996 indenture, which will finance the acquisition and rehabilitation of Biopark apartments, and will refund 4 series of previously issued bonds under the 1996 and multiple purpose indentures. On May 20th, the Commission approved the Biopark financing plan, which assumes the issuance of private activity, long-term tax-exempt bonds in an amount up to $25.8 million that will fund an FHA risk share mortgage loan. Should the Commission approve the bond authorizing resolution included, the 2020 Series A multifamily housing development bonds provide the funding for Biopark's mortgage loan. The mortgage loan will fund the transaction's cost of issuance. In an effort to reduce the Commission's borrowing cost, staff in concert with the Commission's financial advisor identified several series of bonds that could achieve substantial savings through the issuance of refunding bonds at lower fixed rates while leaving the mortgages for the transactions outstanding. Those series of bonds in the 1996 indenture are 2007 Series A, which funded Forest Oak, 2007 Series C1, which funded MHLP 9 Pond Ridge, and 2010 Series A, which funded Magruder's Discovery. And 1 series of bonds in the multiple purpose indenture, the 2002 Series A, financed Strathmore Court. All refunding bonds are tax exempt, issued with either private activity or governmental bonds, and are beyond the initial 10-year lockout period. The structure of the refunding combines both taxable and tax-exempt bonds, which will lower the overall bond yield by approximately 2.5% and generate a present value savings through final maturity of approximately $7.8 million. The actual savings will be determined at bond sale. Therefore, should the bond authorizing resolution be approved, the 2020 Series B multifamily housing development bonds totaling up to $25.5 million will include tax-exempt governmental bonds to refund and redeem the underlying bonds for Magruder's Discovery and Strathmore Court. And the 2020 Series C multifamily housing development bonds totaling up to $16.5 million will include taxable bonds to refund and redeem the underlying bonds for Forest Oak and MHLP 9 Pond Ridge. The cost to execute the refunding will be funded from the 1996 indenture, and when combining the refunding with the Biopark transaction, a savings in costs of issuance of approximately $100,000 is achieved. With respect to the 2002 Series A bonds, which financed Strathmore Court, the reserves funded in the multiple-purpose indenture will transfer into the 1996 indenture. In addition, because Strathmore Court's existing mortgage is currently unenhanced, staff will begin the underwriting and application process for obtaining FHA risk share mortgage insurance immediately, which will likely take 3 to 4 months. The bond debt service annual savings will commence immediately upon closing. Should the Commission approve the bond authorizing resolution, staff expects bond pricing to occur there or on about June 22nd, with the bond closing on July 2nd. And I'd just like to let you all know that Moody's has issued a AAA rating for this impending issuance. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to take those.
Commissioners, before you actually raise questions, I want to point out that coincident with budget efforts, the mortgage finance team is embarking on processes to review our entire portfolio and suite of financings in order to make sure that we build in savings as quickly as we can, as best we can, for virtually every asset that we can in our portfolio. And it's not easy work, particularly given the tumult of the marketplace, but they remain vigilant. And I just want to point out that this is happening coincident with budget, but is complementary to budget and is it's a tactical effort to ensure that we can actually meet the promise that you all had us make around working to deliver a budget and an operating practice that avoided layoffs and furloughs and things of that nature. We cannot make guarantees about that, but we're working as diligently as we can as a team. And I just wanted to lift that up and this entire team's work. And again, this was done, most of it via video conference and conference call, but remotely. Just quickly, I have to shout out also our IT team, because we were able to mobilize social distancing and remote work very quickly. And that's in part because of the investment in our technological capacity over the last several years. So.
Do we have a motion to approve resolution 20-49?
Commissioner Kelleher moves.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
Commissioner Byrd seconded.
Yes.
Any questions? All in favor of the motion, resolution 2049, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered.
Aye.
Thank you all. Next item.
The next item is approval to select Hillis Carnes Engineering Associates as construction materials testing and third-party inspector in connection with the Elizabeth House 3 construction. And Hansuk Choi will provide a summary for you, and we'll take your questions as well.
Yep.
So
let me jump in, Hansuk, real quick again. So once again, coincident with all of these issues, this team continues to work with our partners in the construction world and in the county for permitting and so forth, to ensure that not only are we trying to take care of families today and support them, but that we have the physical apparatus and housing stock to look toward tomorrow. And so I want to also thank folks for all the continuing work.
Thank you, Stacy and Kerry. Good evening, Commissioner. For the record, my name is Hansuk Choi.
Hansuk, you got to get a little closer to the microphone and maybe even shout a bit, but we can barely hear you.
Okay, I might close to. So we are here today seeking your approval of a recommendation of a Development Finance Committee to select Hillis Carnes Engineering Associates INC as a construction material testing and third-party inspector for Elizabeth House 3 project. Staff further recommend authorization for executive director to execute a contract with the Hillis Carnes Engineering Associates INC for $349,270. Material testing and inspection of the constructions require the expertise of approval special inspector to ensure the compliance with the International Building Code and Montgomery County Department of Permitting Service require to ensure that the building is being built for documentation. Third-party testing scope of work was separated into phase A and B to facilitate performance of the project. The early start work is required third-party testing inspections and necessary for that building a special inspection program prior to real estate close. Phase A Scope of work is early work, including utility through plaza deck, first floor, and the soil, supporting excavation, roofing, and the concrete testing. Phase B, scope of work is above the grade, first floor, to sliding the columns to finish the construction. HOC Procurement Office issued a request for proposal RFP 2205 for the construction material testing and third-party inspection for Phase B on March 12, 2020, with a due date of April 1st, in accordance with the HOC procurement policy. Pre-proposal conference was held on March 19. Staff received 5 responses: ECS, Mid-Atlantic LLC, FMC Associated INC, Soil and Land Use Technology INC, and Universal Engineering of Science on April 1st, 2020. Of the 5 qualified responses, Fiscal Engineer Associate scored the highest average of evaluator scores on the several criteria. Staff proposed the selection of Fiscal Engineer Associate INC as of construction material testing and third-party inspector for this Task 3 project. I'm happy to answer your question.
The Development and Finance Committee recommends to the full commission this selection.
We have a motion to approve resolution 20-50.
I make a motion to approve. Commissioner Croom.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve resolution 20-50. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed is so ordered. The approval of resolution 20-50. Order of business. Resolution 20-51.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Catherine Hollister. I'm a Senior Financial Analyst in the Real Estate Division. Staff is requesting funding in an amount up to $300,000 to conduct due diligence and feasibility studies regarding the long-term financing of Westwood Tower Apartments. Westwood Tower is a 212-unit high-rise rental apartment building located in Bethesda. The property provides 50 affordable units, supporting families who earn between 30% and 80% of the area median income, and 154 market rate units. HOC acquired Westwood Tower on December 14, 2017. On March 26, 2018, HOC financed the property's acquisition using a short-term conventional bank loan. That acquisition loan matures on March 26, 2021. Given the current low interest rate environment and the upcoming maturity of the acquisition loan, staff is requesting this feasibility funding to conduct due diligence and feasibility studies regarding the permanent financing of Westwood Tower. Permanent financing would allow HOC to lock in a lower interest rate than the property's current financing and generate enough proceeds to pay off outstanding debt, fund the property's immediate capital needs, and establish reserves for replacement to address the property's needs for the next 10 years. The Commission has an obligation to maintain its properties, both physically and financially, to ensure the long-term durability and affordability of its communities. Staff is only requesting feasibility funding at this time. If a refinancing is determined to be feasible, staff will return to the Commission for approval of a financing plan and authorization to close on permanent financing. Staff recommends utilizing the Opportunity Housing Reserve Fund as a source of this feasibility funding, which will be repaid upon the closing of permanent financing. A resolution is provided on page 301 of your brief book. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from commissioners? Can I get a motion to approve resolution 20-51 for the feasibility funding for the refinancing of Westwood Towers Apartments?
I move approval of resolution 20-51.
And I second the motion. This is simply part of our due diligence in maintaining and meeting both the current and the anticipated needs of our residents and assuring that our properties are maintained and that we are properly anticipating their needs to be competitive in the marketplace and to provide the quality of housing that our residents have come to expect.
Been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 20-51. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered. Being no other business to come before the commission at this time, we will ask to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
Probably moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
So ordered. We'll now go into the Development Corporation meetings. The first one of those is Alexander House Development Corporation. The approval of the fiscal year 20 third quarter budget amendment for Alexander House.
Thank you, Commissioner Priest. And Terri Fowler, our budget officer, will walk us through that.
Thank you, Cornelia. This is just the reciprocating action of the agency's third quarter budget amendment as it relates to Alexander House. We will be reducing the debt service and tenant revenue and unrestricting the property so that the cash flow is available to be paid to the agency as a development corporation fee to assist with the upcoming impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Move approval of resolution 20-002 AH.
I second the motion, Commissioner Simon.
Is this the AH or is it just 202-002A?
It's AH.
Because it's Alexander House.
Okay, because on the document it says 202A. So it's resolution 20-2002AH. Okay, a second?
Second.
Probably moved and second to approve resolution 20-002AH. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. This will adjourn the meeting of the Alexander House Development Corporation. A business. The next meeting is will be for the Metropolitan Development Corporation meeting being called to order.
Thank you again, Commissioner Priest. And this is the authorization to transfer $1 million from the Metropolitan Dev Corp to the General Fund Operating Reserve. And Terri Fowler again will walk us through that.
Thank you, Cornelia. Yes, earlier the commission voted to accept the $1 million from the Development Corporation. And this is the request for the Metropolitan Development Corporation to authorize that transfer to the General Fund Operating Reserve to be used for future operational needs of the agency. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
I move approval of resolution 20-003 ME.
Commissioner Kelleher seconds.
It has been properly moved and second to approve resolution number 20-003 ME. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. I will now adjourn the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation. The next item to come before the board is the end of the docket agenda. So we will formally adjourn the meeting. Long, leave it.
You're very efficient.
I move approval of adjournment.
I second Commissioner Croom.
It's been probably moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. So ordered. I want to thank staff and commissioners for the amount of work that had to be achieved today. That we were able to get to it in a very efficient manner. So I want to thank you all very much for all the work that was done prior to this committee work in order to be able to achieve this outcome. So thank you all very much for this. And we'll look forward to the next meeting in the month of July. Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody.